everyone, so we're going to do something exciting today. Now, for those of you who are following along in the bass saga, there are three things we're going to cover today. We're going to start with this little beauty. This is a 1990-ish Yamaha Attitude Limited 1. So this is the first limited edition Billy Sheehan signature Yamaha bass. So the difference between this one and the others we're going to get into as we go here. What you're hearing as we got into the beginning of this video is the Doug Pinnick Tech 21 pedal with some tweak. And this is strictly the P-style pickup that's in this guitar. Couple things here before we get into this bass, and then we're going to get to number 2, which is sitting here next to me, and number 3, which I will grab in a second. This guitar does not have the push-pull to give the mono output. I was thinking it was in here, but it's not. So the only way to justify both pickups, at least on this particular bass, is to plug in both inputs to 2 amps. At this point, we have one big 8x10 and the little handy-dandy PF800, which has yet to fail me. Dig it. Love the Ampeg stuff. We're going to continue that. So let's talk about this guitar. So what I'm going to do first off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut down part of the Doug pedal. So now it's going to sound like a bass without that signature that Doug Pinnick likes. So let's go through this guitar, and then we'll do the same thing with the 2, and we'll do the same thing with the 3. The idea here is we're talking about similarities and differences among the 3 limited editions, starting with number 1. As many of you know, this guitar was made in 2 colors. It's made in this blue, and there's kind of a candy apple red that has blue inlays. It is set up identical to this one. So as you can see, control-wise, these are designed for the humbucker. So you have a volume and a tone for the humbucker, and then there's the coil tapper phase switch. One of you will correct me if I'm wrong. It's cool. And then the volume for the P-bass style pickup. Obviously, the Attitude basses have DiMarzios in them. This one has unnamed pickups. These are clear tops. There's no DiMarzio written on them, so I'm told that they're DiMarzios. We'll see as we go through, because I do believe you will hear a difference between this bass, this one, and the 3. So let's get started. So again, as I said, we're plugged into the input for the P-bass pickup only. And you can tell I'm overdriving the preamp terribly in this little thing because it's starting to make that noise. Okay, so that's what that pickup sounds like. Let me go ahead and mute this here. We'll switch inputs, and now let's hear what the big humbucker sounds like. Of course, the D tuner is dropped, so let's change it back to E. So let's play around a little bit here. So let's flip the switch. Okay, once again now we're going to roll the tone down. Sound like fun, doesn't it? Gives you that whole Gibson old school humbucker, mudbucker, whatever you want to call it, tone. And this is again part of what Billy's setup involves, is the 2 inputs, 2 outputs, whatever you want to call them, where this pickup goes to 1 amp and this pickup goes to a separate setting. It's very cool. So let's add in now our little Doug. Flip the switch, and then we'll bring the tone back up. Pretty woofy, pretty stout for a neck-placed humbucker. So again, we'll come back here now. We will switch back to the P pickup, and we got Doug full blast. guitar. Let's look at a couple of other things here. For those of you who are aware of these, the limited edition 1 has this type of setting in terms of the neck. Okay, so this is how the neck is mounted to the body. You'll see there are 2 plates, there are 4 screws. Okay. As Billy has said in some interviews, they did some improving along the way. They made some modifications to this design, which is where the 2 and the 3 come in. So you'll see that the neck joints on the 2 and 3 are different as we get into those basses. This is the limited 1, roughly speaking, approximately 1990. This is the first one. This is where you saw the first Mr. Big tours. Just saying. We're going to come back here in just a second with number 2. Okay, so here we are with round 2. This is the Attitude Limited 2. This is the lava red, not an uncommon color, but I see more of the seafoam green, and one day there'll be one of those sitting here too. You'll notice immediately a couple of differences just in appearance. They changed the logo for these. The hardware is all black. Everything has got that nickel black look to it. The humbucker, mudbucker is now in a black casing, and these do actually say DiMarzio on them. Okay, so in essence, I've had people tell me that they think they're the same instruments. They are, but they're not. This one has some improvements based on, again, Billy's use, Billy's time of playing these things. Improvements in each model came along. So this is version 2. So version 2 has a kind of a same feel. Actually, the neck on the 1 that I have here is a little bit rounder than this one. So again, by the hand sand, because these are handmade, it's a little bit different. So let's go through this one. Again, as you all know, the volume and tone are for the humbucker, and then it has volume for the P-bass pickup. Now, the thing about the 2, they incorporated the push-pulls. So there are 2 push-pulls on this instrument. One is for the tone shift on the humbucker, and of course this with the volume for the P pickup. When you pull it out, it puts it in mono setting, so you can actually use both pickups through one output. Okay, so once again, we'll do like we did last time. We're going to start with no over-the-top Doug. Okay, so that is the P-bass pickup by itself, without all the fuzzy fur that I really like in the Doug pedal. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. To make it the same as the other for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and mute this thing. I'm going to go ahead and switch the input to the humbucker. And we're going to go and listen to the differences in the humbucker versus the other bass. What's really kind of funny right off the bat, it almost has a Music Man-like quality to it, which, considering the positioning of this pickup, it's pretty interesting. Because the other one, as you may remember, was very, very woofy, very out front, low end. This one's a little different. So I have the tone up, the volume up, and I have not pulled for the phase switch. Okay, so let's pull that up. Okay, so it kind of goes back. Now let's turn the tone all the way down. Okay, so again, with the tone down and with the knob up, with the pull switch out, again, it's a different tone. So if I push it back in, turn it back on, almost, again, has a Music Man Stingray sound, which is kind of crazy because you wouldn't expect it, but there it is. Okay, so here again, we're going to go back now. I'm going to pull this and we're going to switch it back to the other input. What's really funny about this guitar, this particular one, is I don't think it had a whole lot of use because these are very, very tight. And for those of you who are technical, these have the barrel jacks, which means that you don't have the ability to bend the prongs because it's a long cylinder that the plug goes in and it has the wire ends that you apply for the solder, blah, 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 on the end. So these are actually really tight, which tells me that this bass prior to coming here didn't get a lot of use. And by its condition, it kind of shows that. So here, we'll go back in here now. So now again, we got the P bass. If I can find it. Oh wait, I should turn the tuner off. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to pull it up. Now we have both pickups. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to play around a little bit. So I'm going to drop the tone on the humbucker. Big difference. Big difference. Let's pull it up. Okay, so it is a huge difference from number one, from the other bass, and number two, just by playing each one individually, the way that sound mixes together on this instrument, radically different than that one. Okay, so let's do this. Let's turn on all the mush, and we'll turn the humbucker off, and we're back to the P bass. Okay, so let's do it with both. Now we'll turn the tone up on the humbucker. So that's what this bass sounds like. Now let's talk about a couple of other things here, again, for construction purposes only. Once again, it looks very similar to the other one. You'll notice the difference is the toggle switch is missing because we have the push-pulls. So we have a mono opportunity where we can use all the pickups. Secondly, if we look on the back of this guy, there are two bolts showing. There is another one underneath that mounts the neck from the front to the body. So there's two bolts in the back, one in the front, to give this neck a different kind of stability. Okay. Other than that, and of course what you've already heard, these are the differences between these two. So let's try this. Let's go with number 3 and see how it compares to the two back in a second. Okay, so here we are with Attitude Limited 3. This is the most recent development in this series. Quite honestly, depending on who you talk to and who plays these, people have a preference. They like one more than two, or they like two more than three, or three more than all. The bottom line here is this is a progression. Okay, this one has more transitional improvements based on Billy's playing style, things he learned along the way with 1 and 2 to make this thing as durable as possible, because we all know how amazing Billy is and what he plays like. So when he does the bends and he bends the neck and does all the cool things that he does, the bass has to stand up to it. So this is the embodiment of all of the changes of playing for the last 20 some odd years with these guitars on the road to give this one more durability and more than the other two. So let's talk about this one in relation to the others. Okay, again, black hardware everywhere. Same deal. Couple of things specific about this guitar. As you'll notice, the jacks are now on a metal plate. So Yamaha did away with the barrel jacks. So these are now kind of more normal, where if you have to service it, you unscrew the plate and there's the two jacks. It's a lot better when you go out and take one of these out on the road and play them consistently. If the jack has an issue, you don't have to buy a barrel jack like you do for 1 and 2. Just an improvement, one of those things. Also, the bridge on this one is slightly recessed. It is actually set into the body a little bit, so you can really get the action down more than you can on the other two. Also, the saddle design on this is more traditional Fender style with barrels, as opposed to the big square blocks on the other two. Just a little thing, but it's worth noting because of how it transitions into the guitar. Okay, a couple of other things automatically. The humbucker is different. Okay, these are, of course, the Marzio Willpower Ps. No harm foul. Good stuff. This is a different humbucker. I did not yet do the research, and I'll have to ask Mr. John Willis what this humbucker is versus the other two. I can tell you the sound of this one is very different. And we've already come through listening to one sounding like a traditional Gibson and two kind of bridging a gap between Gibson and even a Music Man, which is still, to my mind and my ear, kind of crazy cool. Okay, so for number 3, all right, we'll cover some more of the construction stuff here in a second, but let's listen to it. Okay, so once again, I'm going to turn off all the rasp. And you hear that is because I'm hitting the preamp too hard again. Okay, so again, this guitar also has the push-pull setup for mono if I want to bridge both pickups in. So again, for our example here, we'll do just as we did with the other, and we'll plug into the big mambo. Okay, so what you're hearing here is wide open on the humbucker, pushed in, and the tone wide open. So again, we've now turned the tone down. And of course, as I do this, I can hear things in here rattling, because I know it's really hard to pick up on here, but the low end that comes from these humbuckers this close to the neck is stellar. That's where that little undergirding of almost like a sub comes in. Okay, so let's turn the tone back up. Okay, tone out. Okay, so that's what this sounds like. Okay, so again, if I tap into the fun stuff, turn the tone back up. Shaking yet again. Okay, so this is just a humbucker. Okay, so let's go back here once again. Let's go back to our Willpower P. Okay, now pull. Both pickups on, tone is open, and it is depressed. So that's pickups on. Now, let's pull again. We'll turn the tone down this time. Let's see what happens. And everything in here is rattling and things are going to start falling off the walls. Okay? It's an amazing bass. No question. What you can do with these guitars is unbelievable, and we have to thank Billy for that, because it was his motivation and inspiration from all those years ago with the old Fender P that brought this to life. Thank you, Billy. Now, a couple of other things with this guitar. The construction is, again, different. So we talked about the neck joints on the other two. The neck joint on the first one has 4 bolts. The neck joint on the 2 has 2 showing, and underneath the pickguard are some more. This one has the latest. And what the latest, as you can see here, there are 3 bolts showing, and there are 2 down here at an angle. And the angular bolts cause the neck to pull into the body to give it more of the feel of a neck through, to give it more of the sound, because you're pulling the neck and you're causing the wood to have that nice, thick, solid bond. So it plays and sounds like a neck through, so it actually gives it a little more resonance and sustain. To me, I have now all 3 basses. You can tell by listening to each one of them, they do something different. If I cut off all of the pedal stuff and we go straight from bass into Ampeg, or bass into amp, for those of you who don't like Ampeg or don't play, it's all good. For going bass into amp without the pedal, you can hear the differences among the 3 basses. So what you get to do as a player is you get to decide, is the 1, 2, or 3 your favorite? Go find one. Obviously, you're going to find a lot of 3s because this is the one that's currently being made. You'll find a bunch of 2s. Most of them are seafoam green. You'll find some in lava red. I just happened to stumble across the lava red and grabbed it. There will be a seafoam here one day, you watch. If you like the one, it comes in the blue and the red when you can find them. The red's a little more challenging to find. I do believe I have seen one recently for sale. Go check it out if you're really into it. This will give you an idea across the 3 limiteds. Which one do you like? Take your pick. If you like all 3, buy one of each. It's all good. Personally, I think this needs to be painted pink, but that's just me. You never know, it might be swirled pink. Could be bubblegum sparkle, could be like a bowling ball. You never know, but one of those at least will be happening in the near future. If you have any questions about what you've seen here, what you see with the Attitude basses, anything at all about these guitars, again, keep in mind this is the basis. This is not how we're playing. This is not if we're doing imitations of everybody doing their cool stuff. You know what? We all have our heroes. We all have those who inspire us. That's a treasure. The guitar will match because it motivates you. The player who plays the instrument motivates you. The bass itself gives you motivation as well because it encourages you to do better. With that said, questions, comments, concerns, crippling fears, anything you want to talk about relating to the Yamaha Attitude basses, post away wherever you see this video. And I know what? I hope this is helpful for you all. I like doing this. I'm glad you all enjoy it too. So I will see you on the road and next time.